Walmart's Black and Unlimited platform is making it easier than ever to support Black-owned brands. When you go to walmart.com/Black and Unlimited, you'll not only get to shop products from Black-owned brands, but also learn about founders like Janelle Stevens of Camille Rose, which specializes in products for naturally curly hair. And there are many more awesome products that you have yet to discover. It's all easy to find with Walmart's Black and Unlimited platform. Join in on celebrating Black brands today and every day at Walmart. We are Black and Unlimited. Visit walmart.com/Black and Unlimited to discover more. That's walmart.com/Black and Unlimited.
Welcome, everyone, to the Highly Relevant Podcast. My name is Jack Rico, and this is episode 19. We have some great guests for you today. My good friend Carrie Keagan, host of Bravo After Hours. I worked with her at VH1 for years. She stops by the podcast to promote her new book, Everybody Curses, I Swear, and boy, can she curse. Also on the show, actor, producer, writer, director, and rapper Ice Cube joins me to discuss his new high school movie, Fist Fight. We also talk a little bit about the American educational system, why raunch comedies aren't offensive to people anymore, and his secret to making hit movies. And if you like Latin pop music, you probably have heard of the Mexican brother-sister duo, Jesse E. Joy. They have a brand new self-titled Bilingual album, and we chatted at length about bilingualism in music and in this country. Look, it's a great show, so put your headphones on, and if you're listening in your car, crank it up. We begin with a rap icon. Ice Cube really needs no introduction, but I recently discovered this interesting stat on him. All his movies, from the beginning to now, have grossed more than $1 billion at the box office. How did he do it? I ask him now on the podcast. Ice Cube, welcome.
Thank you.
So you've described Fist Fight as the type of movie you go to the movies for. Why?
Oh, it's just fun. It's entertaining all the way through. The characters are, people you want to see. Just being in the high school, on the last day of school, and everybody's going crazy. It seemed like, when I was younger, those was the kind of movies that I would rush to. And I believe Fist Fight is in the same vein as Fast Times at Ridgemont High, or Ferris Bueller Day Off, or any of those hits that we kind of grew up on.
Did you ever see that high school movie, 3 O'Clock High?
Richie King definitely was a big fan of 3 O'Clock High, who's our director. So, I know a lot of inspiration was taken from that movie.
It's a great movie, man. Another thing is, the humor in this movie is pretty raunchy. Why do you think that type of humor has resonated so successfully with moviegoers? And how do you balance provoking the audience without offending the audience?
It's a fine line. I think people are, kind of more adult than the powers that be give them credit for. When they try to do a movie like this and go PG-13, they really actually insult the audience, because people know that in high school, the language is uncensored. So
right.
That's why I just think, we can get away with more stuff. I don't even know if we're getting away with more stuff, that we're just going for it and not holding ourselves back.
It sounds a lot like the NWA premise, though.
Yeah, without being some false moral, backstop holding people from expressing themselves. I'm just glad. It's just way more freedom when you do an R-rated movie. And I don't know if this movie could have been done PG-13.
Probably not, right? How was your high school experience in LA? Was it anything like what Fist Fight is?
Nah, it wasn't that crazy. We had a cool school. My high school years, I was pretty much trying to go in full force into my rap career. My school was pretty tame. I don't know if there's ever been a school like Roosevelt High. It's probably only in the movies.
Did you take your kids to public school or private school?
No, I actually had my kids homeschooled.
Oh, okay.
Each of them went to public school for a little while, but I just felt like, I can afford a better education for my kids, so I might as well go for a while I can afford it. it was better for me and my kids because, public school is, full of distractions.
Right.
I was just happy to be in a position where I can, have my kids, learn right there at home.
In a podcast interview with Snoop Dogg in April of last year, you had said this about entertainment. You said, quote, "Entertainment is a facade. Here today, gone today." How have you managed to defy that premise of fame, and what is the secret to the staying power you've had in Hollywood all these years?
I think it's no secret, just try to do movies that people like.
But that's so difficult. I think it's easy to say that. I think it's hard to do that. But the fact that you say it and do it, that's special, man.
The reason why it's easier to say than do is because when you do a good movie, everybody wants to put you in another movie after that.
Right.
So you have to be disciplined because the money look good, the stars look good, the studio look good, but the script could be trash. And then people, chasing that money sometimes end up doing 2 or 3 bad movies in a row off the good movie they did. So now it looks like they're doing shitty movies.
But how do you know? How do you get that eye for recognizing that a movie's going to work? Because you seem to have the gold Midas touch. You seem to have it almost since the beginning of your career.
Instincts off of would I go see this? Would this interest me? Do we have the right people in place? And I just think, after doing Boys in the Hood, I guess I was so scared to get just typecast because I was just worried about just playing, Million Doughboys. So I started to sift through scripts a little more and turn down a lot of stuff that just wasn't right. I realized it's always better to wait for the right project.
I want to ask you really quick about The Players Club. 1998, you wrote, produced, and directed it. I'm curious in why you haven't gotten the bug to direct again.
Well, I have, that experience, it was extremely time consuming. I felt like I couldn't do any other projects because I was pretty much stuck on this one project for over a year. So I was like, man, I can't be hung up for a year and not just do anything else but a movie. So then I just started to really get into producing and finding the right directors. But of course I want to direct again, but I just think, things have to slow down a little for me before I do that.
Well, before I let you go, I want to kind of do some speed questions with you to kind of get a sense of your interests. What app do you use? What's your favorite app?
Oh man, I'm Twitter World Star. ESPN, NBA.
Are you watching any TV shows?
Not a lot, no. Not really.
I'm sure you've been saying some movies. Any movies in the last year, anything in the Oscar nominations that you've liked? Maybe some of the documentaries like...
Actually still sifting through them. I've seen a few, but, I want to get through all of them. I still haven't seen Fences or Hidden Figures or, so I just want to get through them all before I start picking.
All right, Ice. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time.
Okay. All right.
Latin pop music is in a war with reggaeton, fighting for radio airplay and listeners. But one of the pop bands that has risen above the fray is a Mexican duo called Jesse Joy. They've released their first ever bilingual album and are nominated for a Grammy this Sunday night. They join me now on the podcast.
Hi, Jack.
Hi, Joy.
Nice talking to you.
I'm so excited to be talking to you guys. Where are you right now?
We are in Chile. In the countryside.
Yeah, currently
kind of in the middle of
kind of in the middle of nowhere, taking like a day and a half off.
But we should definitely be uploading photos of how we're trying to achieve the phoners.
But thank you very much. I mean, we're very happy to talk to you as well.
Well, thank you so much. First of all, I kind of wanted to tell you how I discovered Jesse E. Joy. I was watching una cadena de televisión en español. It's called Mundos. Have you heard of it?
Yes.
They played music videos, and one day I was kind of flipping through the channels, and there was this song called Llegaste Tú.
Llegaste tú y todo cambió.
And I was like, oh my God, what is up with this song? So I kind of just stayed and I saw the whole video. And I don't remember the last time I saw a Spanish language video, but I was entranced with you guys, with the song, with the video. And ever since that day, I started Googling you guys and I became a full fan. And every album you've put out, I've listened from top to bottom, including this new one that I want to talk to you guys about.
Oh, thank you so much, man.
And it made a great impression on me. So first of all, I want to congratulate you on all your recent award nominations. 2 nominations to the Premios Billboard.
Thank you very much.
Grammy nomination for Best Latin Pop Album. 3 nominations to Premio Lo Nuestro. Plus, you won a Latin Grammy back in November of last year, 2016. How long has it taken and how much struggle did it take for you guys to finally become a legitimate force in the music industry?
Hi, thank you. You're making us
Oh,
blush
thank you
here.
very much. The struggle could be, I don't know, whatever comes with changes and trends in terms of music genres or whatever, or I don't know, not having the right manager, or I don't know, but all that, I think it just becomes a second or a third thing when the main thing is the music, and that's what we are focusing on.
You guys you guys are Mexican American. Your English is like perfect. You sing perfectly in Spanish. You sing perfectly in English. And there really is no offbeat. I mean, you guys kind of nail it. You guys sound American, and then you sound like a Latin band. Explain to the audience on our podcast how you were able to achieve that. Where were you guys born, and how did you get the accent so well in your daily life?
We sound American and Mexican because we are both. Our mom's from Wisconsin and our dad was from Mexico City. We was sort of a reverse migration. Our mom fell in love with our dad, and vice versa. And we grew up in Mexico City, and it was kind of smart in a way. We still haven't figured it out if it was intentional of what Mom did, but she wanted to keep it as kosher as possible. And when it came to English and Spanish, she was like, at home, it's either English or Spanish, no Spanglish.
Oh, wow, okay.
And it kind of makes sense that we're a little older, because I mean, Spanish we were going to learn yes or yes, living in Mexico City, listening to I mean, just to our environment and our friends at home. But with Mom and Dad, the English, if it started with Spanglish, it could have ended up diluting a bit. So that helped a lot, and I think also Mom creating this sort of bubble, maybe of her missing home a bit and family, or also the music that she grew up listening. She used to play a lot of Neil Young, Johnny Cash, Carole King, Aretha Franklin, CCR, among other stuff. Dad used to play Pedro Infante, Los Panchos, Los Tres Reyes, and then it got to a point where we're like, okay, and now we can also hear what we want to hear, like individually.
So now it's more like, oh, there's other music
There's
besides
other music, yeah. So I got really hooked into Coldplay and all the way of Britpop, Brit rock, and I went to the roots of what they used to hear. I went from there to Oasis, and went from Oasis to the Stone Roses, and also Joy discovering what she liked.
Your new self-titled album, Jessie Joy, is a bilingual album with 12 songs. From your previous albums, from what I saw, with some English language translations. Why do a bilingual album now? where you have so much success in Spanish. What is the strategy behind it? Is it to grow as an artist? Is it to become a mainstream act? That way you can play Madison Square Garden and in stadiums. In order to do that, you have to have a bigger audience than just the Latin audience. Was there research done that gave you this conclusion? I mean, what was the main driver behind the idea?
Well, from the very beginning, whenever we came out in 2006, if I'm not mistaken, with our very first album, we were always super transparent about being Mexican American. And ever since the first song that we wrote, we were also writing in English. It made sense for us living in Mexico City, being born and raised in Mexico City. It just made sense that our music, once we had the opportunity and once that our record label came to us and it became some sort of job, I think that it made sense for us for our music to be shared first in Spanish. We always let people know that we were Mexican American, just letting them know that, just as much as we write in Spanish, we write in English. And we waited this long because we were always we've been not scared, but a bit sensitive about having our Hispanic and Latin fan base think that they're a stepping stone or they're probably
right.
part of a different plan. We just wanted them to feel like, look, guys, we're from here, we're yours. This is also a different side of us, and eventually, we would let you into a little part of that. And we waited as long as we could. We've been putting that off for so long, but something very curious in this album, particularly with Un Besito Más, when we were revisiting the song, once we were putting the album together, we were like, you know what? This song, Echoes of Love, I can totally hear it in Spanish, right? Like, yeah, definitely. So we rewrote it in Spanish as Ecos de Amor. Same thing happened with
wow.
Helpless.
Okay, so it was in reverse. You wrote it in English first and then wrote it in Spanish.
Same thing happened. They were originally written in English as Echoes of Love and Helpless. And it was the song More Than Amigos. So whenever we were preparing the album Un Besito Más, of course, our record label was like, guys, you're already in the studio. You might as well just record, the vocals as well in English. We were so nervous. I cannot tell you, Jack. We were like, oh, okay, but don't get ahead of yourself. We're just going to record it because we're here. And when we were recording in London, of course, our record label will eventually, or, occasionally come and say hi while we were in the studio. They got so excited. They were like, guys, can we please just think of a way of sharing this? We said, of course. And that's why it was released especially for the UK as a special launch there. Of course, it came out everywhere, but the fact that it was so far from home, we don't want our fans from Latin America or from parts of Spain to think that this is something that we're now pursuing and forgetting about the Spanish. So whenever we decided to have an album, we said, perfect, let's make it a bilingual thing. Have them hear a little bit from where we come from,
Crash course.
Some of our big hits in Latin America, some of our big hits from our career, and just a little bit of to see what Jesse and Joy truly are. For our fans now in Latin America, we were so nervous. We were like, crap, it's going to come out, and we were actually counting down. We were on the countdown of whenever it was coming out. So we were on social media, and it was so nice to see this big fan base saying, guys, this is amazing, this is also who you are, and to see all these fans that are just like us, Mexican American, or they just have different cultures, and they're also bilingual, and they're also, I think that at some point it felt like from the very beginning we opened the doors to our homes. Perhaps there were a couple of closed doors they hadn't seen through, you know what I mean? So now it's like just another open door, and there's another room you can visit, but they know the whole house.
First of all, at the beginning, we didn't have any fans at all. So we were like, we want them to get to know.
Right.
If we do something, we're not going to do it out of ambition. We're going to do it out of, just because it feels right. So once it started to feel like a right moment, they knew we were bilingual. And also, it was a funny thing, growing up in Mexico City, we don't look fully Mexican. And also pronouncing words correctly in English, it was kind of.
I don't speak Spanish.
Yeah, it was like while living in Mexico City, it also had this sort of a little bit of social bullying. But it'd be like, oh well, he's pronouncing McDonald's properly instead of McDonald's, So for us, we're like, okay, let's let's do it in Spanish. You know, even though we're singing in Spanish or fully in English, when we sing fully in Spanish, still some of our culture in there. You know, and the influences that we grew up listening. So now when we did this complet for the UK initially. Because that was the idea initially for the UK. We were like, hey, let's give him a sort of a crash course of Jesse and Joy what we've done over the last 11, 12, almost 12 years now in Spanish, and then show them some English stuff. But at the same time, we wanted our Spanish and Hispanic or Spanish speaking bands, we wanted them to also like the new English.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. Who is this album then intended for? Is it for... it's obviously not for Latinos that only speak Spanish. This must be for a Hispanic American crowd, or maybe even a white, black American crowd, an international crowd that speaks English. But how challenging is it going to be to get radio airplay from these English language songs? So you guys are basically starting from scratch.
Well, I think that for us it was just a matter of sharing our music with more people. We honestly believe that music is a language itself. So for us to put out a bilingual album, which has songs that people already know, songs that people didn't know in that particular language, it's just something that defines us as artists, as individuals, as human beings, as Jesse and Joy, as brother and sister. And for us to just put it out there, it's basically getting a broader audience. It doesn't matter if they're Mexican American, if they are from Europe, if they are from South America, South Africa. I think that's the beauty of music, that perhaps it's a language that more people understand, but that's why we also added the Spanish version of some of them, because even though they're in Spanish, it's like, for us, it was impressive to see what happened with Corre. You know, Corre was a song that now we wrote in English, and that's a song that was originally written in Spanish. Now it's a song that we wrote in English to see, just as an experiment. Let's see what happens now, you know?
And it's in the same album.
Yeah, just the fact of being in London at the top morning show in London, in the UK, being introduced as, these are Jesse and Joy. I mean, we don't get to interview many Mexican bands. I mean, maybe we were the first one. So for us, it was like, it makes us feel really proud. You know, it doesn't matter if we were singing in English. They introduced us as brother and sister duo Jesse and Joy from Mexico City.
Was there any thinking of making Llegaste Tú and recording that song in English, since it was such a big hit?
I'm beginning to think that's one of your favorite songs.
It's my favorite song.
My favorite song.
Well, you know what? Perhaps we should start on an English version just for you.
Oh, I mean, that would be a fantasy come true. You know what? I'm actually going to do a late night show, and I'm going to have you guys come and do that song in English, and then it'll go viral, and then you're going to have to put it in your next album.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
And then my final question is, what are your expectations? What happens if it doesn't take off in English? Will you do another English album later on, or is this just an experiment?
Well, I think that what happens is that we're going to continue making music in the same way that we've been writing it since the very beginning, whenever it feels right to write in English, whenever it feels right to write in Spanish. And I think that More Than Amigos is a perfect example. Our record label got carried away whenever they found out that we had versions in English and versions in Spanish of the same songs, and they were like, hey guys, can you revert the version of More Than Amigos? And we're like, no. It doesn't work like that. You know what I mean? It's basically, I think that More Than Amigos explains perfectly what we are, who we are, what we come from, and it's like that combination of how we grew up, how we see the music when we're making it. And I think that what happens now is that we are going to continue making music, and hopefully we'll add more countries to our tour, and hopefully we'll have audiences that perhaps don't speak our same language but speak our same music. So I think that that's our main goal, to continue reaching not only people but their hearts.
I have a good answer for that.
Yeah.
At least in my head. And we never thought it would pick up, for our music to pick up, and to go out of our parents' living room when we started writing songs. And I think we've been keeping it that way, and just keeping it as real as we can and true to ourselves, and just keeping it faithful towards the music and what we do. So if it picks up, amazing. If it doesn't, I mean, we feel right now we're releasing a new single in Spanish called Me Soltaste. So I think we're just going to keep on writing music.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias por esta entrevista. Being bilingual, hablando en español, speaking in English, I just think it's the future of this country, of the United States and across the world. And to be able to have an artist that kind of resembles this new generation of Hispanics is so electrifying and so thrilling that you guys are doing this when Juanes doesn't want to sing in English. Romeo Santos, the bachatero, doesn't want to sing in English because either A, they feel that they can, or B, that their Spanish music will break through into the mainstream. And it's so many different takes and perspectives of different artists, but I happen to think that what you're doing is the right way to do it.
Oh, thank you so much, man.
But let me just say that we also agree with you that we see that the future of the United States being multicultural. And I think that all these artists that you mentioned not singing in English, remember that for us, it's not about a trend. It's who we are. We're Mexican, we're American, and we cannot forget our roots. We cannot forget what we truly are. And it would be also something that my mom would probably hold against us for the rest of her life if we don't also honor that part of us.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for being on the podcast, and I hope to see you very, very soon and meet you guys.
We hope to see you soon in person. Thank you, Jack. Take care.
Cursing. People love to curse, and people like to hear other people curse. My next guest has built her reputation on it, and her new book, Everybody Curses, I Swear, Uncensored Tales from the Hollywood Trenches, is that and so much more. Please welcome talk show host, author, comedian, actress, producer, entrepreneur, and my good friend, Carrie Keagan. What is going on, girl?
Hi, it's Monday.
Where are you right now?
I'm in Los Angeles.
So let's talk a little bit about your new book, which, by the way, I am surprised. I did not see this book coming for all the years that I've known you. So now for the people who are listening here on this podcast, Carrie and I go way back. I'm talking about like 2000.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So 2010, I was brought in by VH1 to host, to be a contributor guest for the Critics' Choice Award week show that was a lead-in to, a week lead-in into the Critics' Choice Awards, and you were hosting this, but this was like a 1 week thing, right?
Yeah, well, so when we first started the show, it was a pilot week that they did. It was like a trial run, and that was January. I think that was January of 2011, and nobody knew what was going to happen. It was the first time VH1 had done anything like that, and it went swimmingly well.
So,
so much so that they brought it back.
Yeah, they brought it back, and we officialized the show. It was Big Morning Buzz with Carrie Keagan, and we had a lot of fun. What are some of the great memories you remember about that show?
Oh God, so many things. Walking through Times Square at 5:00 in the morning to getting to work. Some of the characters that I would run into, I know it's not show related, but it was to me. That's how I started my morning every day.
Like the cowboy in Times Square all the time?
Oh, no. The cowboy is asleep at 5:00 in the morning. There is literally no one out except the people that are either still partying or doing the walk of shame. And to be honest, those are the people that were watching Buzz.
But you were interviewing some of the biggest celebrities on...
Yeah, we had everybody on the show. I'm really, really proud of how many people we were able to get on the show. Sylvester Stallone.
Pitbull.
Pitbull. We had, all of the legendary rockers came on. We've had Aerosmith come on.
Foreigner.
Peter Gabriel, Foreigner, Joe Walsh. We even had Robert Kennedy Jr. come on. And to me, that was like the pinnacle of, wow, we just got a Kennedy on. So much so that the president of Viacom found out that he was in the building, came down to our tiny little studio on the set, on the floor, in the lobby of VH1, and hung out and watched the interview.
Well, I remember Tom Calderon, the president of VH1, used to come down all the time to hang out with you.
Well, I mean, this was Tom's baby. If Tom didn't exist, the show wouldn't have existed. This was his little dream thing.
I remember seeing you and Sylvester Stallone, and it reminded me of this one moment that I will never forget, thanks to you. I was in LA, and I said, you know what, I'm going to go hang out with Carrie Keagan. I'm going to give her, a call. And you said, hey, why don't you come over to my office? And I said, all right. So I'm thinking just like a little office here in some sort of cubicle area, And I walk in, and it's like a huge warehouse office. It was huge. And I'm walking in, and I see a statue of Rocky. And then I walk in a little further down. I make a left through the doors, and there's this man on a sofa, all in black sweatpants, black t-shirt, and looks like there was an editing booth. And I just said, Jesus, that guy looks really familiar. And as I'm walking in, I see Karush, which is one of your best friends, and I see then you, and I said, there's a guy in there that looks just like Sylvester Stallone. And you went, that is Sylvester Stallone. I go, no, it can't be. I'm not bumping into Sylvester Stallone like this. He goes, no, you want to meet him? I mean, seriously, I was like, no, you're joking. Yeah, what, are you tight with him like that? And slowly he starts coming over. He says, Jack, here, let me introduce him. Hi, Sylvester. This is Jack Sylvester. And that was it. I was like, my life was made right there and then. And what I was not expecting, Carrie, was for him to go on a 20-minute monologue telling stories about Rocky, his great movies, the Rocky Broadway musical, and he was cursing, and he basically did a stand-up comedy routine for us. I had no idea he was that funny. How did you and Sylvester Stallone get to be such good buddies?
Well, let me give you a little backstory. So NGTV, we took over this building in Beverly Hills that is basically it was like a 3-story bank. It used to be a bank. There was a vault in the basement and everything. That ended up turning into our vault for all of our tape content and everything. So it was a massive building, and it was all you've been in there. It's sort of like when you walk in the front doors, time just ceases to exist.
Yes.
There's no light that comes in. It's like walking into a Vegas casino. You have no idea where you are. You have no concept of what time it is. There's a bar. The music is pumping, and you never know who you're going to run into.
Right. It's like a totally really good dream, like on acid.
So Karosh is actually my business partner, and he and I sort of designed this building to be exactly that. It's a place where employees can come. They can be productive, they can have fun, they can be debaucherous, but at the end of the day, everybody just enjoys being at work, which is a concept that most people don't have.
It doesn't exist, barely, you know?
No. So we built this little one-stop shop. And a few years into us living there, we live there. A few years into us being there, Sylvester Stallone's production company was down the street, and apparently that building got sold, so he was looking for new space, and he came over to us because we had met him before. He came over to us and said, hey, you guys have a huge building. Do you think you could spare a couple of offices? Like, we just want to hang out with you guys. And
so crazy.
We ended up renting out some space to them and his production company, and we were together for, I guess it's going on about 7 years. So
incredible.
Yeah. So I've been Sly's landlord for a very long time, and I can tell you this: every single day, I have the exact response that you had. I hear his voice, and I instantly go into like, "Oh my God, he's here! Oh my God, Sly!"
Yeah, but you're now like a friend/fan.
And it never ever gets old. I can listen to that man tell stories all day, every day, and I am in heaven.
And he
in fact, when
curses so well.
Yeah, he does. And Karosh and I, when we first met, before we were business partners, we bonded over the fact that we were both obsessed with old Sylvester Stallone movies, all the Rockies, all the Rambos, even Oscar.
Demolition Man.
All of them, like everything. I love Sly. And then now I get to call him my friend, and that's pretty much one of my favorite things in life.
Speaking of cursing, your new book called Everybody Curses, I Swear, Uncensored Tales from the Hollywood Trenches. How did how did you spin this off? What was the genesis of this book? Because I remember in all the conversations I've had about future projects that you were going to do, a book was not one of the things that I guess was immediate for you. How did this come about?
When I was in New York, Karosh and I were sitting down over lunch, and we just started kind of, you just sort of reminisce about all the things you've accomplished over the years. And we just go, oh God, you remember that one time with Colin Farrell? And oh my God, you remember like, Emma Stone? Or, and we started like, oh, that would make a really funny chapter in a book one day. Well, maybe it has to be today, because if I don't write these things down now, I'm going to forget them all. So we started writing down
How
some
long
chapter
did this
titles.
take, this process take of writing this book? Because I've thought about doing something like that, and everybody tells me, I know you want to write a book, but don't do it. It's like torture. It's long hours. And how was the process for you of writing this? Did you write everything? How long did it take?
Well, I will say that is the truth. It takes a long time, but I would never discourage anyone from writing a book. You should absolutely do it. The thing about, I went to a publisher and they bought the idea. So the problem was that I just put myself on a time crunch. If you're going to do it yourself, you don't have that much pressure. You just write it when you can write it.
Right.
But my problem was I was still doing a live daily show. And it's really, really hard and time consuming to do a daily live show and then try and find time to sit down and concentrate on something that you did 10 years ago,
Agreed.
So the hardest part for me was just finding the time. So I did end up hiring a writer to help me. And she was able to put down thoughts for me in order. But to be honest, the bulk of it really was me just having to go back and rewatch videos and remember old stories and put things in order and just sort of remember why I was trying to tell the stories and not just tell a story. It's easy to say, oh, look at this interview. But it's another thing to say, this is what happened because of this interview.
Now,
or this was the behind the scenes.
I know that this might have sounded like a great idea for you and Karosh when you were talking about it initially, but when you walked into the pitch, I'm dying to know what this pitch was like and how did you frame it? Hey, it's about cursing and celebrities and so much more. And they're like, yes. Or,
well, that part was actually not as complicated because No Good TV was already a big success. When we launched No Good TV, we were one of the first partners on YouTube, and we have over 2 billion views online. So walking in, we already had some credibility.
By the way, for the podcast listeners who don't know what NGTV is, No Good TV it's one of the first junket-like interviews with a host and the celebrities where instead of being PC, everything is off the books and you can curse and be as normal and debaucherous. And it is one of the most fun interviews with celebrities you'll see on YouTube anytime. And I'm sure the 2 billion views is only increasing more and more. I've seen countless hours of those things because there's a lot of celebrities who I never thought in the context of cursing. And when they curse, my eyes just pop. I can't believe he said that. Oh my God, how is this going to haunt him for the rest of his life? So very addicting.
And it's funny because that's what happened when Karosh and I first started NGTV. We were like, we want to do celebrity interviews, but how do we make them different? Because at the time, back in like 2005 or whatever, like everybody was pretty much doing the same thing. You'd turn on any TV station, it was always, tell me about your character or what inspired you or, just these questions that you've heard 1,000 times.
Cliche, yeah.
Well, and I never felt like I ever got to know these people outside of this media treated questioning. And so our thought was, I'm just going to talk to him like I talk to you. So I want to know what George Clooney feels like to have a beer with. Well, guess what? I'm going to walk in and go, what the F's up, George Clooney? And he's going to break it down. So, I mean, what I learned very quickly was that the more honest and true I was to myself, the more honest and true they were in response to me.
Well, that's what I was going to say. How did you get them to feel comfortable enough? I mean, everybody from Stallone and Rogan and everybody. I mean, Rogan probably will, curse at the, at the drop of a dime. But the other celebrities, the ones that you probably thought you couldn't get to curse. How did you make them comfortable though? Did you have to talk to the publicist before and say, hey, look, this is the type of show we are. We suggest that they do curse and feel comfortable. How was that whole thing?
When we first started, it takes a lot to get into those junket scenarios. You can't just call up and they approve you. So we started doing music first, and music is a little bit more free with those kinds of things. Bands obviously are more apt to swear and just be themselves. But when it comes to TV and movies, people are definitely more guarded. I guess they have more at stake.
And to lose, yeah.
Yeah, so what ended up happening is we started doing red carpets first, and those things are a little bit more free. People tend to be a little bit more
Loose.
off the cuff, yeah. And then, we would always tell people, I would always start my interview with, hey, by the way, we're uncensored, so, have at it. Do whatever you want. And then my line of questioning is always very on point with the message of whatever they're promoting. But at the same time, it's in a fan slash vulgar vocabulary. So I was never asking personal questions. I was never getting into their private business. But at the same time, I was getting them to be so comfortable being themselves that sometimes you would see a side of them that you didn't ever get anywhere else. But it wasn't necessarily them talking about who they were dating, but you felt like you really got to know them after that couple of minutes.
What would be like the main appeal for this book for those people that maybe don't know you yet and that are interested in reading the book? Why should they buy it?
Well, a lot of the comments that I've been getting so far are, oh my God, you're just like me. I was bullied in school too for this, that, or the other thing. Or, oh my God, I remember using my first curse word in front of my family and, they freaked out. Or, God, I always wanted to know what it felt like to sit across from Justin Timberlake or, whoever. And so I think what you'll get from me is you'll get to know who I am, but also know that there's someone else out there that feels just like you. And I live vicariously through all of these people, all of my fans. So when I'm in a room interviewing these celebrities, I'm doing it for you.
That's so great. What's your favorite part of the book, Carrie?
Oh, God. Wow, that's like picking favorite kids. I don't know.
Well, everybody does have a favorite kid. They just don't say it, but...
Oh, no, Jack! I think, most people, when they interview me about the book, it's usually about the celebrities cursing, which is obviously the most fun and the funniest. But to be honest, there's so much girl and women empowerment in the book that I'm really, really proud of that, and I want people to read that. There's a chapter called Emancipation Declamation, and it really is talking about how much women need to stand up and help each other. And especially in this business, but in real life too. But in this business, I've come across so many women that will, in a way, almost sabotage other women or try and keep other women down. But that doesn't help. It doesn't help them, and it doesn't help us. And if we all stick together, and if we all help each other, God, we can get so much done.
And we need voices like that too.
And just looking at the Women's March that just happened, God, what a proud moment for women. We all came out, we all stood up, and we all said we need to be heard. Now, if that had happened a couple of months ago, we might not be in that situation right now.
Hey, by the way, I'm just curious about your reaction, your thoughts. When you heard the Billy Bush, Donald Trump video, when you saw it and you heard it, you're someone who's probably used to this type of language, but as a woman, when you're hearing it from Trump, he's running for president, what were your initial reactions and thoughts to it?
Ugh.
Yeah, right?
I was completely disgusted and mortified at first. And then I started thinking about it and I thought, God, how many times have I been in that exact situation? And what would I have done? But the problem was, as a woman, it's almost expected for you to brush it off, to go along with it, to just sort of let the guys be the guys. And I think that that's really the bottom line of what the problem is right now, is that why are we accepting this kind of behavior from anybody to anyone ever? We all need to learn how to respect each other a little bit more, maybe a lot more. And I don't know the whole outcome of that situation. I don't I don't know. There's a lot of people that were trying to keep Billy on the air. I don't know that Billy did anything necessarily incorrect because it was his job to keep that.
And in
that
situations
man.
like that, and I'm sure you know, is when you're with a celebrity and they're a guest on your show, there is that sense that you kind of have to toe with them, kind of just go with the flow. And if that means, and obviously all of this was private, that's what they thought. And a lot of...
But the argument there is, and I was going to say to a point, because on the bus, it was one thing. As soon as they got off the bus and they both continued that ridiculous behavior with the woman,
joking, right?
And you could see how uncomfortable she was because she didn't understand what was happening. That's where things get unfair. That's where it's totally uncool. But on the bus, it's private. They weren't supposed to be on air. That was just a conversation that was happening that wasn't supposed to be on camera. But as soon as they got off the bus, it's not okay anymore.
Tell me a little bit about your new show, Bravo After Hours with Carrie Keagan. I saw an episode the other day.
Okay, so here's the deal. Bravo After Hours is all the fun celebrities from Bravo, the Bravo celebrities, they call them. And I go out and they take me to their favorite bars or their favorite restaurants or their, wherever they like to hang out and have adventures or whatever. And I go out with them. I party with them so you don't have to.
No, but I do. Thank you so much, Carrie, for coming on the podcast. The name of the book is Everybody Curses,
Rico.
I Swear, Uncensored Tales from the Hollywood Trenches. And I can tell you, if you're looking for something different, something with a lot of flavor, this is the book you need to pick up. Carrie, thanks so much for coming on.
Jack, Rico, I cannot thank you enough for having me. I feel like I need to end this the way that I ended and began every conversation with you, is your actual name is Rico.
And that's a wrap for our 19th episode of the Highly Relevant Podcast. I want to thank Ice Cube, can't believe I just said that, Carrie Keagan, and Jesse E. Joy for being on the podcast this week. I hope you liked it, and if you want to reach out, I'm on Twitter at Jack Rico Official. That is at Jack Rico Official. Also, please subscribe and leave a review if you like the show. We're now on Spotify, Google Play, and Stitcher. See you again next Friday on another episode of Highly Relevant.
Walmart's Black and Unlimited platform is making it easier than ever to support Black-owned brands. When you go to walmart.com/Black and Unlimited, you'll not only get to shop products from Black-owned brands, but also learn about founders like Janelle Stevens of Camille Rose, which specializes in products for naturally curly hair. And there are many more awesome products that you have yet to discover. It's all easy to find with Walmart's Black and Unlimited platform. Join in on celebrating Black brands today and every day at Walmart. We are Black and Unlimited. Visit walmart.com/Black and Unlimited to discover more. That's walmart.com/Black and Unlimited.